We're going to do some self-myofascial release using the MFR stick. And today we're going to focus on the quads. So I'm going to have Shelby sit on the bench with her leg out straight so she gets the most access to the muscles of her quads. And we want her to think of applying about a 6 out of 10 pressure. We want it to be hard enough that we get a change, but not so hard that we completely torture ourselves. So she's going to grab the stick and we want her to start working laterally through those lateral quad muscles, going nice and slow, looking for areas of tension and discomfort. We can kind of work our way inwards to the rec fem in that medial quad, start to work all the way through, and then work all the way towards the VMO and even the edge of those adductors as we work through the middle portion. We want to think nice and slow, have them work back and forth, make sure they get all areas of the quadricep muscle, looking for areas of tension and discomfort. We're going to do self-myofascial release using the MFR stick on our anterior tibialis muscle. This is going to be really important, especially for our athletes who get a lot of foot contacts in their sport, who are going to run. Soccer players, football players, track and field athletes who are going to be running a lot are going to typically have a lot of tension in that anterior tib muscle. And so what I want Shelby to do, arm out, legs out straight, she's going to work through that lateral portion of her quad. We want to make sure we're not pushing directly down on the bone of the tibialis, but working on that lateral portion from the knee all the way down to the ankle, working from the front side all the way to the back side, looking for areas of discomfort, trying to work through those stiff points so we can reduce the resting tone in that anterior tibialis muscle. We're going to do some self-myofascial release on the hamstrings using the MFR stick. So I'm going to have Shelby sit on the bench with her knee bent so she can get access to her hamstring. We want her to think pull up against the backside of the leg into the hamstring at about a 6 out of 10 level of discomfort. We want a pretty significant amount of pressure to be able to sink into that muscle. She's going to work all the way up through the hamstrings, even into some of those posterior adductor muscles, going laterally into that lateral quad and hamstring, going all the way from the knee, all the way up to the glute, making sure we get all of those hamstring muscles from top to bottom. We're going to do some self-myofascial release using the MFR stick on the calf muscles. We want to get both the soleus as well as the gastroc. I'm going to have Shelby sit here with the knee bent so she can get some access to that calf muscle here. She's going to start up by the knee, apply some good pressure in there, sliding downwards, getting through that lateral calf muscle, working herself medially. So we're going to get the soleus as well as that big chunk of the gastroc muscle on the inside there. We want to search for areas of tension and discomfort. This is going to be especially important for some of our athletes who are doing a lot of running and getting a lot of foot strikes. You're going to see they have a lot of tension in those lower leg muscles. We want to have them spend a few minutes in there working, looking for areas of tension and discomfort to work out using the MFR stick. We're going to do some self-myofascial release on the plantar fascia using the MFR stick. So I'm going to have Shelby sit with her knee bent, that foot dorsiflexed up so she can get some leverage and pull that stick against the bottom of her foot. We want to work all the way from the base of the toes all the way down to the heel, working through that entire plantar fascia. This is going to be really important for people, especially people who have suffered with plantar fascia, to work on working through some of that stiff tension on the bottom of the foot. You're going to see people who run a lot, have a lot of foot contacts, are going to have a lot of tension down there, have them work the medial aspect, the middle, all the way to the side, going from the base of the toes all the way down to the heel. We're going to do some myofascial release on the lats using the MFR stick. I'm going to apply this to Shelby, so I'm going to have her reach her arm up, kind of bend away from me just slightly, give me some good access to that lat. It's important to remember, if you have a partner and you're applying this to someone, ask for feedback for the person you're applying it to so we're not pushing too hard. I don't want this to be so painful that they can't stand it, just a little bit of discomfort as I work through those tight spots. So I'm going to apply some pressure here. I'm going to roll down through that lat muscle, through the attachments, all the way up to the posterior aspect of the shoulder. I want to work the anterior portion through some of that serratus and anterior lat muscle. And I'm going to go posterior through that posterior lat all the way up to that posterior aspect of the shoulder into her teres minor, some of those rotator cuff attachments. This is going to be really important, especially for people who have overhead shoulder mobility. So think you want to work through that tension through that aspect of the shoulder so that they can get those arms up over their head. We're going to do some myofascial release on the lumbar paraspinals using the MFR stick. So I'm going to have Shelby turn around. That way I can have her sit and have her flex forward so I can get the most access to these lumbar paraspinal muscles. I'm going to kneel down. It's important, remember, communicate with your partner if you're applying it to someone to make sure you're not applying too much pressure. We want to make sure just enough pressure that they can get some effect, but not so much that we're harming them or hurting them. So I'm going to start laterally, apply some pressure from her sacrum all the way up through her lumbar to her lower thoracic, rolling laterally, medially. We want to make sure we're not getting directly on their spinous process. So we want to work on the lateral portions of her spine through those paraspinal muscles. Then going over to the other side, doing the same thing, working all the way down from her sacrum up through all those lumbar paraspinal muscles. This is going to be important for our clients who have a history of low back pain and low back pain tightness to kind of work on reducing the resting tone in those lumbar muscles. We're going to do some myofascial release on the trap muscles using the MFR stick. So I'm going to have Shelby grab a seat on the bench facing away from me. So I'm going to have her turn her head to the left and slightly side bend her head to the left as well. This is going to give me the most access to her trap muscle here. This is going to be really important for our clients who have a history of neck pain and neck tightness. I want to get this right on here, and I want to make sure I communicate with her about pressure. Is this enough pressure for you? Mm-hmm. Good. And I want to just nice roll through from her AC joint all the way up through her levator and her trap. We want to, again, don't apply too much pressure into the cervical spine. We don't want to press on the spinous process, but I want to work through this muscle here all the way through the top of her shoulder, through the anterior, and even into kind of that posterior portion a little bit as I come backwards, applying pressure all the way through that muscle. This is going to be an effective way to reduce the resting tone in these muscles, especially if she's suffering from neck pain and neck tightness.